This is Nina. Nina is 25 years old girl. She is a university graduate and is currently solely employed as an online seller. Nina spent her day expanding her knowledge of her online business. She is a dedicated and hardworking person. On a bright sunny day, she suddenly received a phone call from an unknown number.
Hello?
She was shocked to hear that her parents were involved in a car accident and both died at that time. Nina is still shocked and sad a week after the incident occurred. Due to the trauma, she eventually went to her uncle Arman for emotional and financial guidance.
Are you okay, Nina? Are you still sad about your parent death?
Yes, I am still sad about what happened.
If you have any problems, you can share with Uncle.
Yes, I have a problem how to handle the inheritance and all the stuff.
Oh, you don't need to worry about that, Nina. You can invest into business and Uncle believe you can get a big profit from that.
Then can I invest in your business?
Yes, sure. You can trust Uncle.
Here's Farah. Farah is a single mother with 4 kids. She works in a big company. She is a loving mother and also a dedicated employee.
Farah, can you see me in my office? Have a seat. Farah, do you still want to work here? Yes, of course, Melissa. Why? Okay, you still can work here as long as you need to work for 60 hours without overtime pay. If you don't, I can kick you from our company. Oh, okay, Miss Lisa. As long as I still can work here, I will follow all your conditions. Okay, then you must sign this contract. Thank you.
So, what are the issues that we can get with these two situations? First is whether Nina and Farah can void their respective contract based on the claim that their consent was obtained through undue influence. Second issue is whether Arman's persuasion of Nina to transfer a sum of money constitute to a valid contract between them. And the last issue is whether Lisa's threat to fire Farah constitute undue influence in forcing her to accept unfavorable working conditions.
Section 2 of the contract 1950, agreement enforceable by law is contract. The contract can be created and exist verbally, in writing and also implied from the conduct of the parties. The 6 elements of a valid contract are proposal or offer, acceptance, consideration, intention to enter into legal contract, capacity to contract and certainty. Section 10 of the contract 1950. Every agreement is a contract if it is made with the consent. The contract can be defined as a legally enforceable agreement between 2 or more people. Section 12 US 1950. A person must be in insane state when making agreement. An insane person refers to a person who has mental disorder and also those who are in a state of illness, alcohol or drug. Section 14 of the contract 1950. A contract or agreement is void when there are certain reasons such as coercion, undue influence, error, misrepresentation and fraud. The contract succeeds when there are no such conditions.
In Section 15 of the Contract Action 1950, coercion in the Contract Act is when a person does or threatens to do any act prohibited by the Penal Code or a person threatens to detain and destroy any property unlawfully with the intention of causing loss to a person. In this case, Lisa, who is an employee of an organization, forces Farah to work 16 hours without overtime pay, and she knows that Farah has to accept the unreasonable agreement for the benefit of the children. Working hours per week are reduced so that it is in line with the recommendation of the International Labour Organization. Through the reduction of hours of work recommendation 1962 numbers 116, which recommends country that practice working hours of 48 hours per week to take steps to reduce the working hours without involving a reduction salary. The employer cannot reduce the employee's salary following the implementation of the reduction of working hours from 48 hours to 45 hours per week. Section 60A bracket 1 of the Work Action 1955, employees cannot be instructed to work more than 5 consecutive hours without a break of not less than 30 minutes, more than 8 hours a day, more than a period of time in spread over period 10 hours and more than 48 hours a week. However, if the employer asks the employee to work beyond the period time spread over period 10 hours per day, that the employee needs to be paid at a rate of 1.5 times that hourly wage rate under section 60 bracket A bracket 3 bracket B. The overtime count for the spread over period is after the end of the working time period according to the spread over period.
Section 16 of the contract at 1950, which provides two key elements of undue influence, which is actual undue influence and presumed undue influence. Actual undue influence occurs when one party uses their power or trust to influence the decision of another party, overpowering their will, while presumed undue influence arises in the relationship where one party is in a position of trust or control over the other, such as he used that position to obtain an unfair benefit.
For the situation of Nina and her uncle Arman, according to Section 2H of the contract at 1950, there has been a contract between them, and Nina has also invested her money amounting 500,000 to Arman. This contract is between both parties, but at that time, Nina is not in a situation to think rationally and has also signed the contract, while Farah has also accepted the offer of her employer, even though the contract is more of an exploitation for Farah. This is because she really needs the job to support her children. In Section 12, subsection 1 US 1950, the person must be saying to accept the contract so that he can think normally. But for Nina, she is not in a good state and she was also persuaded by Arman to do it. Farah accepts the contract so she can stay working. According to the fact of the question, Nina, a 25-year-old who was emotionally devastated by the recent loss of her parents, she was particularly vulnerable to manipulation. Arman, knowing her emotional state, persuaded her to transfer 500,000 to his business, assuring her it would be a safe investment. However, Nina later discovered that the money was used to settle her uncle's personal debt rather than being invested in a business as promised. This situation is likely falls under presumed under influence, where the familiar relationship between Nina and Arman creates a presumption that undue influence may have occurred. However, in Farah's case, she agreed to a 16-hour shift without overtime payment under threat of firing. Lisa's threat to fire Farah if she refused the terms may be seen as putting undue pressure on the vulnerable employee. Farah, as a single mother, is likely to be financially dependent on her job and may therefore feel compelled to accept unfair terms due to her circumstance. This situation is more directly related to actual undue influence, where Lisa used coercion and threats to obtain her consent. This scenario exemplifies how one party can exploit another's economic dependence to secure an unfair contractual advantage.
It is supported by the case of Alcott v. Skinner. In this case, when Miss Alcott was about 35 years of age, she felt a desire to devote her life to good work. She became associated with the Sister of the Poor and after a few years became a professed member of that sisterhood and bound herself to observe the rules of poverty, chastity and obedience. The rules as to poverty require a member to surrender all her property either to her relative, the poor of the sisterhood itself. The rules also provide that no sister should seek from anyone outside the order without the consent from the lady superior. Within a few days of becoming a member, Miss Alcat made a will bequeathing all her property to Miss Skinner, the lady superior, and in succeeding years made a gift to the value of about $10,000 to the same person. When Miss Alcat left the sisterhood about 8 years later, she immediately revoked her will to recover what was left of the money given to Miss Skinner. If she had sued to recover the amount of her gift which had been spent on the fulfillment of the purpose of sisterhood at an early date, she would have succeeded on the ground of undue influence. But as it was, the acquaintance surrendered her claim based by lash.
This issue can be related to the case of Zaimatul Hikmah binti Abdul Hamid, the prosecutor. In this case, Supiah, an Indonesian national and single mother, came to Malaysia in 2008 to work as a domestic helper to support her child. After working with a Chinese employer for a month, she fled and became the domestic helper for the appellant, which is Zaimatul Hikmah binti Abdul Hamid, who lived with her husband. The appellant had a disabled child named Muhammad Arif Daniel, who could not speak or walk. Supiah take care for Arif by feeding and drinking him, bathing and teaching him to walk, while the appellant and her husband worked from morning until 8 p.m. under a verbal agreement for Rm 400 per month. Later, when the appellant gave birth to a second child, Supiah also took care of the baby alongside her existing responsibilities. Initially, Supiah's treatment was good and her passport was kept by the appellant. The abuse worsened after moving between multiple houses. She was scolded, caned, slapped, pinched, pushed, doused with hot water and stabbed with a knife. Her salary also was irregular, with only a few payments made throughout her employment. Supiah was often deprived of food, medical care, and basic freedoms. On the night of April 28, 2019, after being beaten, Supiah escaped and was eventually rescued by Emilda binti Rasul, who found her at a gas station. The session court convicted the appellant under Section 66A of the Anti-Trafficking in Person and Anti-Smuggling of Migrants Act 2007, Atif Song, sentencing her to 10 years imprisonment and ordering compensation of 50,000 in 6 installments. Both the appellant and prosecution appealed the decision, but the High Court upheld the conviction and sentence. The case is now pending before the Court of Appeal. Looking at the section above, Farah should have received more pay because she had worked more than 10 hours per day, which is 16 hours. In fact, she worked without pay, which violates the above act. Held that a treat can invalidate consent if it leads the parties to enter into a contract to which they would otherwise not have consent. Therefore, Farah can argue that her consent was obtained through undue influence, coercion by the employer, and request the cancellation of the contract.
Conclusion. To conclude the issue by applying the law and the case given, Nina and Farah case offers an illustration of how Malaysian law might use the idea of undue influence to revoke a contract. This is because the agreement was made without free consent, as they were under undue influence when entering into the contract. For Nina's case, as a result of the devastating death of her parents, Nina's illness was linked to emotional distress. The action of her uncle Arman, who took advantage of Nina's sadness to convince her emotion and get an extensive money transfer, are obvious case of undue influence. Likewise, the Farah case demonstrates how economic pressure can result in undue influence. Just as Lisa tried to terminate Farah's work if she did not agree to the provision of the employment contract, demonstrate that Farah's ability to give free counsel was hampered by curative circumstances. Thus, Farah and Nina have a valid reason for seeking that their contracts be void on the grounds of undue influence. The reason behind this is that their counsel was not freely provided.